All right, hello. So I decided to make a quick video here explaining what I want you to do with the mini lesson. Um, so I have my exemplar example up here. So for mine, I just took a unit that I've done before in the past on governments and people, and uh, so that's my unit title. You can come up with some unit. Obviously, it's something you've never done before, as far as you've never actually done the unit before. So I get it. It's not going to be easy to kind of construct, but I want you to be thinking of what's the end goal and how does the lesson support that. So if my unit is on governments and people, I have that right here. And if you go down to my essential standards, this right here, this is what I'm basically guaranteeing my students are going to be able to do by the end of the unit. Um, and so my lesson has to or should support one of those two essentials. Doesn't always have to, um, but that is what I want the students to get out of it. So that is looking at different perspectives to explain issues and time periods and events in other cultures, and then synthesize cultural structures, types of government, economic systems to explain differing concepts of citizenship. So we looked at really what happens when governments change, basically like a revolution, which I think we'll call it that next year as revolution unit. Um, but for the purpose of this, that's kind of what I'm working towards. Are those two essentials, and we'll look at how to break down a standard later on. But for the purpose of this, just make sure that your lesson supports the essentials in some way. So going back up to the objectives, and honestly, that could be maybe the last thing that you do because you're working backwards, thinking about your overall objective, unit objective, and then how you're going to build towards that. And activities objectives should be maybe one of the last things you do. For me, I'm having the students analyze a primary and secondary source on the one-child policy because the one-child policy talks about multiple perspectives, first of all, on the effects of it. And it does talk about in a different culture than what we are used to here. So we talk about cultural aspects with that. And we also talk about different types of government and their economic systems, really their government. And so looking at the one-child policy supports that. So looking at, like I said, the activities support the essentials. Just honestly, like that's kind of what I'm looking for the most. And that's kind of the meat and potatoes of this is that your activities support that, the essentials, and of course, you're working towards a basic unit title. In this case, mine is governments and people. Do your best with this. I don't think that I know this maybe some first time for you doing a social studies lesson, but I think that you can do a job with it. Then formative assessment. I mean, the formative assessment is just a dipstick of where your students are at in learning. And for this is graphical organizer analyze the one-child policy. So if they can analyze the one-child policy and how it affects people in different perspectives, then they can do that on their summative assessment. So that's kind of something I did. Maybe you can just do a quick explanation of that when you do your actual lesson on Thursday. These are the standards that we addressed in the unit. Just do the best you can. You don't need all these standards. For the purpose of this, just get maybe a handful for you and in constructing it. Modifications, and this is just students with IEPs or 504 plans or any other accommodation that you need. These are just some examples of that. So really my point of doing this is for you to be thinking about these things. What I'm going to emphasize is you have your essential standards and unit title first, do that first, then think of a lesson that can support that. So in this case, I chose the one-child policy as an example to support my essentials down here, right over here, multiple perspectives and looking at different types of government and synthesizing cultural structures. So if there's any other questions, please let me know. Like I said, when I have you do these on Thursday, I'm going to have you just choose an activity that you have up here and just kind of go through what you would do. And I have a description at the bottom of this and on right on D2L. If you have any questions, please let me know. Email me. Like I said, I want you just to get the meat and potatoes with this lesson. Choose a unit direction, and then how do your essentials and activities support that?